Oh man, thank heavens something came along to quell all that giddiness. Good morning to you. Good Friday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Steelers. It comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into hockey and or baseball. I also offer daily shots of Penguins and Pirates in the same place that you found this. The Steelers did not exercise their fifth-year option on Najee Harris's contract. They also did not exercise Justin Fields' fifth-year option. And these things, put together or taken separately, mean next to nothing, especially in the case of Najee. If you're new to this show, I'm going to share something here that I've been sharing with listeners for years now, and that is that Mike Tomlin loves Najee. Loves Najee. On the field, off the field, in every way. Thinks the world of him, treats him like a son. He is going exactly nowhere after this coming season, regardless of the fifth-year option status. And I'm not just telling you this because we heard last night at DK Pittsburgh Sports that the Steelers have every intention of at least attempting to sign him to a longer-term extension this summer, thus rendering the fifth-year option and everything else related to it completely moot. And I gotta be honest with you, I don't actually have a whole lot to say about this other than what I just did. But I feel comfortable pointing out that a lot of the same people who were ready to carve a bronze statue of Omar Khan outside the Gate C marker suddenly seem to think that he got really dumb in the span of just a handful of days. The Steelers know who they want to sign, they target those players, and they go and get them. And yes, there are exceptions to this because I made the same claim quite often, actually, going back to this winter, regarding Mason Rudolph whenever there were signals, including vocal signals, all the way up to Art Rooney, that they had every intention of keeping him, and in fact, never ended up even making an offer. But that is very much the exception and not the norm, just as Najee is the exception and not the norm when it comes to having a head coach like this. Everything Tomlin ever said about Rudolph appeared to come through gritted teeth. Why? Because he didn't want to admit he was wrong for 5 years or whatever. Who cares? Water under the bridge at this point. But with Najee, he wants to write poetry. And now that the running game finally did get going in that final month of this past season, thanks in large part to Rudolph, and then the Steelers go out and get Arthur Smith as their coordinator and draft not one, not two, but 3 additional offensive linemen. You think, even for a split second, those of you who were upset by this news yesterday, that the Steelers are just going to say to Najee, we'll see you. I mean, look, he's not going to run forever. Nobody at that position does. He's 26 years old, though. That's not crazy old for a running back. It just isn't. In fact, you'll see most of the more pronounced or more significant drop-offs, meaning the ones that take you from a starter to a backup with an irreversible decline, those will come closer to age 29 or 30. You're not going to see it at 26. You're not going to see it at 27. You're not going to see it at 28. Now, in fairness, Najee's miles are harder than most people's miles. We all know that. We've all come to respect that, I think. But that doesn't mean he's about to be done. And that doesn't mean that after all of this, that you do for a running game, for a power running game, for a punishing running game, that you're just going to say, hey, see ya. No. Don't think for a second that they haven't already explained all this to him. And you know what? As long as I'm at it, it's not to this extent, but I'd have a hard time picturing that the same thing won't happen with Fields. Now, Fields is a much more difficult signing from both perspectives because I'm positive that young man believes that he's still starter capable in the NFL, and he should. There's no reason for him to be giving up on himself after 3 years in Chicago. No quarterback should do that. But how much would you offer that isn't insulting? How much would you offer that keeps him here? How much would you offer while taking into consideration that, let's say, you have Fields signed, I'm just going to make this up, for the next 3 years after this coming one, 3-year contract, and you guarantee him, I don't know, basically the equivalent of backup money, okay? Because that's what he is right now. That's the status to which he was relegated following this past season for the Bears. Do you take that if you're him, or do you bet on yourself? And do you take it before this season when you haven't had a chance really to prove anything to anybody and you're not going to be the starter for the opener? You're just not. Russell Wilson is much more than in pole position. He's going to be the starter. And then I look at this from the team perspective, and I say to myself, if I'm Omar Khan, do I really want to keep going into every offseason without any quarterbacks? Do I really want that type of uncertainty over the organization? Do I really want every quarterback who comes in to have to learn a completely new playbook? And he might just say, hey, we value what Fields can bring, certainly in terms of his athleticism, the sort of thing that doesn't go into a slump. And we're ready to make a commitment to him, and we're ready to do so while also understanding that, he might want to become a starter, but making sure that that possibility at least exists in Pittsburgh. In other words, Wilson stays, but Fields is here as well, and there's just kind of an understanding that there will be some sort of ascent or climb, or at least an opportunity. It might be a better situation than he'd find somewhere else. I don't know. It's dangerous getting too specific into hypotheticals, but I wouldn't mind seeing the Steelers try to work out something with Fields. I really wouldn't. I don't believe that it's to anyone's advantage to just keep changing quarterbacks year after year after year. And there's no way they can assure themselves of being able to get Wilson back if Wilson's as successful as everybody hopes he'll be. When we come back, J1Q. Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George. LGKG is a personal injury law firm in Western Pennsylvania that represents people hurt in car accidents or who need help with workers' comp or medical malpractice. When the attorneys at LGKG make you a promise, they keep it. They've been keeping promises in our region for over 80 years. LGKG's been AV rated, the highest rating a law firm can receive, and they've been designated super lawyers. That's actually a thing for over 15 years. It's a rare combination. LGKG has offices in Cranberry, Newcastle, Beaver Falls, Butler, and Elwood City. Learn more about them by visiting lgkg.com or by calling 888-842-5454. LGKG. Today's J1Q comes from Donald, who says, DK, I know we have some talent on the defensive line, but how do you get the most out of it? That's tough. That's tough. I'm going to tell you where my mind flashes first when you say this. I know almost everybody's going to think about, first making sure that Cam Hayward is the best version of Cam that he can be at his age, that Larry Ogunjobi is still making things happen, and that Keanu Benton makes that second-year leap that Mike Tomlin's always imploring his second-year guys to make. In fact, he's doing more than imploring if you hear him around the facility when it comes to that specific subject. But I'm going to answer the question differently. I want to see somebody off of this line. And I'm not even going to disclude Cam, okay? Let's throw him into the mix as well. I want to see somebody on this line become enough of a consistent threat to penetrate to the quarterback that pass rushing up the middle can become a thing again for this defense without stunting, without sending linebackers, without blitzing off the corners or anything like that. I'm talking about just plain old me versus you up the middle. I'm going to beat you and I'm going to make life either very, very difficult for your quarterback, or I'm at least going to force him to go in a direction that he doesn't want to go in per his own script. You see what I'm saying here? The last time the Steelers had that non-Cam, okay, and I'm going back to like, when I'm thinking of Cam, I'm thinking of that season opener in Cincinnati a couple of years ago, where Cam was just all through the Bengals and made everything hell for Joe Burrow, and Burrow was flushed out. He'd run right into TJ Watt or Alex Highsmith or whatever. That's when this defense is really, really rolling, when you can get that kind of penetration. The only player, the non-Cam player that I can think of in recent, anything, who was doing that was Javon Hargrave. And I know I'm going back a bit for that a handful of years. And that's not okay. That is not a way for a defense to function in the National Football League in the year 2024. You've got to have, it doesn't have to be Aaron Donald, okay? But it has to be somebody who's making consistent havoc happen up the middle. I hope that's Benton. Benton has shown signs of it. But for the most part, what you hear from the Steelers brass when they sing songs about him, and they do, it's way more about something as basic as his ability to get off of blocks and make the tackles that he's supposed to. There has to be more. There has to be more. Now, going to your question a little bit more directly, the names that are currently on this list, meaning players who are behind the three that I've already mentioned, Cam, Larry, and Keanu, you're talking about DeMarvin Leal, who I don't even know is going to be on the roster come the end of training camp. I really feel like that's the position that he should be put in entering this camp. You either step up or see you, because we don't know exactly what you are right now. Braden Fehoko is probably right there too. Everybody kept saying, put Fehoko in, put Fehoko in. And guess what? They never did. And I'm going to guess there's a reason for that. They added Dean Lowry as a free agent this season, off-season, I should say, in an attempt to bolster the room. We'll see how that goes. They drafted Logan Lee. They seem to like him, but sixth rounder isn't guaranteed a spot either. And before I forget him, the same way you were about to, Isaiah Loudermilk is still in the fold, and he's got to develop into something other than a decent run stopper. And that's what he is. He's a decent run stopper, not necessarily a good one, certainly not a great one. He's decent, and he does not get to the backfield. He does not get to the quarterback. And then there's my guy. Montravius Adams is still here. And when Mon Adams is healthy, when he's feeling it, he gets back there. He does different things. I love him in a supporting role. A supporting role on this defensive line doesn't mean coming in when somebody else is hurt. It means rotating. It means being part of the regular scheme to an extent. I don't want Cam out there for 75 snaps. You don't want him out there that many. To be honest, I don't want that out of Larry O either. Benton, yeah, if he can handle it. If he can't, there's support at hand. It's not an exciting group. It would be if Cam was 25 as opposed to his mid-30s, but this is where they are. If they can find a way or find some people or find some methodology to get more pressure up the middle, it can be solid. Not spectacular, just solid. But that's better than where it's been over the past couple of years for the most part. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Steelers. We'll be back Monday with another one.